Imagine for a moment that you are sitting in a coffee shop with a group of new friends. These friends are speaking English, and the conversation is moving fast. They are talking about something interesting, perhaps a new technology or a problem in society. You are listening, and suddenly, a brilliant idea comes into your mind. You know exactly what you want to say. The thought is complex, intelligent, and important. You open your mouth to speak, but then you freeze. You stop because you are searching for a specific difficult word to explain your brilliant idea. You search your memory, but the word does not come. The moment passes. The conversation moves to a new topic, and you stay silent. You feel frustrated. You feel like your English level is not good enough to show your true intelligence. If you have ever felt this way, you are not alone. This is the most common problem for intermediate learners. You have big ideas, but you feel limited by simple grammar and vocabulary. But today, everything changes. Hello and welcome to English in Fluency. I am your host, Alex. Today, we are going to start a very special journey together. We are going to destroy the myth that you need big, academic words to sound smart. We are going to learn the art of using simple, clear English to express the most complex and beautiful ideas in the world. This is not just about learning new words. This is about unblocking your mind. By the end of this series, you will be able to talk about politics, emotions, science, and philosophy, all while using the comfortable B1 vocabulary you already know. You will learn to communicate clearly and confidently without ever getting stuck searching for a dictionary definition in your head. So, take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and let's begin this transformation together. To understand why we get stuck, we need to look at how we view intelligence. Many students believe that complexity equals intelligence. They think that if a sentence is long and uses rare words, it is a better sentence. But think about the greatest communicators in history. Think about the most popular public speakers or storytellers. Do they use words that confuse people? No. They use words that connect with people. True communication is not about showing off your vocabulary. It is about transferring an image from your brain into the listener's brain with as little friction as possible. When you use simple words to explain a hard concept, you are actually showing a higher level of mastery. Einstein once said that if you cannot explain it simply, you do not understand it well enough. So, our goal today is to embrace simplicity as a superpower, not a weakness. Let me tell you a story about a student of mine. Let's call him Marcus. Marcus was a brilliant engineer. He designed bridges and complex structures. In his native language, he was known for being very articulate and precise. When he started learning English, he wanted to keep that same persona. He wanted to sound like a professor. One day, Marcus had an important job interview with an international firm. He prepared for weeks. He memorized a list of advanced business vocabulary. He memorized words like synergize, utilization, counterproductive, and aforementioned. He thought these words were his armor. The interview began, and the hiring manager asked him a simple question. She asked, "Marcus, tell me about a time you solved a difficult problem on a project." Marcus started his story. He wanted to explain that his team was wasting time on a bad strategy. But instead of saying wasting time, he wanted to use the word inefficient allocation of resources. He started the sentence, "We were experiencing and he went blank. He forgot the phrase inefficient allocation. He panicked. He tried to find another big word. He said, "We were utilized badly." It didn't make sense. He stumbled. He sweated. The interviewer looked confused. Because Marcus was so focused on the big words, he lost the flow of the story. He did not get the job. Later, we analyzed what went wrong. I asked him to tell me the same story, but I gave him a rule. I told him he could only use words that a 10-year-old child would understand. Marcus sighed. He thought it would sound stupid, but he tried. He said, "My team was spending too much time on the wrong plan. We were working hard, but we were not getting results. So, I told everyone to stop. We looked at the problem again, and we found a faster way." When he finished, I looked at him. That explanation was perfect. It was strong. It was clear. It showed leadership. By trying to sound smart, he had sounded confused. By using simple English, he sounded like a boss. This is the lesson of Marcus. When you try to translate complex abstract nouns from your native language directly into English, you create a wall in front of you. You need to stop translating words and start translating meaning. We call this concept deconstruction. It sounds technical, but it is actually a fun game. Imagine you have a complex idea, like procrastination. Procrastination is a B2 or C1 level word. If you are speaking and you forget this word, you might panic. But if you deconstruct the concept, what is it? It is simply waiting until the last minute, or doing something later because you don't want to do it now. Those are all simple words. "I have a problem with waiting until the last minute" is a perfectly clear sentence. Let's try another one together right now. I want you to actively participate with me. I want you to think of the word ambitious. It is a good word, but maybe you forget it in the middle of a sentence. How do we explain ambitious using only simple words? Think about the feeling of the word. A person who is ambitious wants big things, right? So you could say, "She has big goals," or "He wants to reach the top," or even, "She is very hungry for success." All of these communicate the exact same idea as ambitious, but they use vocabulary that you will never forget. This is the key to fluency. Fluency is not knowing every word in the dictionary. Fluency is the ability to talk around the words you do not know, using the words you do know. Now, let's move deeper into this practice. We are going to practice expressing opinions. Expressing an opinion on a serious topic is usually where students feel the most pressure. Let's take the topic of environmental sustainability. That is a huge, heavy title. If someone asks you, "What do you think about environmental sustainability?" your brain might look for words like renewable energy, carbon footprint, or conservation. These are great words if you know them. But if you don't, you can still have a very intelligent conversation. Let's break it down. What does sustainability really mean? It means we can keep doing it for a long time without hurting the earth. So, if you want to express a big idea about this, you can use simple grammar. You can say, "I think we need to live in a way that is safe for the future." That is a powerful sentence. Safe, future, live. These are basic words, but combined, they express a deep moral philosophy. Let's try another angle. Maybe you want to talk about how companies pollute the air. You don't need the word industrial pollution. You can say, "Big companies are making the air dirty, and this must stop." It is direct. It is emotional. It is clear. I want you to notice something about the sentences I am suggesting. They are usually shorter. They often use verbs instead of big nouns. In academic writing, we use a lot of nouns. We say, the implementation of the policy caused dissatisfaction. That is very stiff. In spoken English, and especially for clear communication, we prefer verbs. We say, people were unhappy because of how they started the new rule. This brings us to a very important technique called the verb shift. The verb shift is a method where you take a complex noun and turn it into a simple action. Let's look at an example. Imagine the word isolation. That is a feeling of being alone. Maybe you want to talk about the psychological effects of isolation on children. That sounds very difficult to say. The psychological effects of isolation. Let's use the verb shift. What is the action of isolation? Being alone. What is the action of psychological effects? Making the mind sad or sick. So, we shift the sentence. We say, when children are alone for too long, it makes their minds sad. We expressed the same big idea, but we made it human. We made it relatable. Let's follow another story to see this in action. This time, let's talk about a woman named Sarah. Sarah moved to a new country, and she was invited to a book club. She loved reading, and she understood the book perfectly. The book was about a complex political revolution. Sarah went to the meeting, and everyone was discussing the implications of the regime change. Sarah felt small. She wanted to say that the new government was just as bad as the old one, but in a different way. She thought of the word hypocrisy or cyclical history, but she wasn't sure how to use them. She remembered the verb shift. She stopped trying to find the noun hypocrisy. She focused on the action. What did the government do? They said one thing and did another. So, Sarah waited for a pause, and she spoke. She said, I think the new leader is lying. He says he is different, but he acts just like the old leader. Nothing really changed. The room went quiet. People nodded. One person said, Exactly. That is exactly the point. Sarah didn't use the word hypocrisy, but she won the argument. She communicated clearly. She felt a rush of confidence. She realized that her simple English cut through the noise and hit the truth. This confidence is what I want for you. But to get there, we have to practice listening to this kind of simplification. We are going to do a listening exercise now. I am going to describe a very complex situation using only simple English. I want you to listen and try to guess what big concept I am talking about. Are you ready? Here is the situation. This is when you work very hard for a long time. You give all your energy to your job. You stop sleeping well. You stop seeing your friends. Eventually, you feel completely empty. You cannot work anymore because you are too tired in your mind and body. You feel like a fire that has gone out. What concept is that? Did you guess it? In business English, we call this burnout. But look at how I described it. A fire that has gone out. That is a metaphor. Metaphors are the best friend of the simple speaker. When you don't have the technical word, use a picture. If you don't know the word inflation, you can say, money is becoming smaller. If you don't know the word arrogant, you can say, he thinks he is taller than everyone else. These pictures are often more memorable than the difficult words. Let's try another listening visualization. Listen to this description. This is a way of life. In this way of life, people try to own as few things as possible. They don't want a big house filled with stuff. They only keep what they truly need, or what makes them truly happy. They prefer empty space and freedom over having many clothes or cars. Can you identify this big idea? It is often called minimalism. But the description I gave you was B1 level. They try to own as few things as possible. Anyone can say that. If you are at a party and someone asks, "What is your design style?" you don't need to panic if you forget the word minimalist. You just say, "I like empty spaces. I don't like clutter." Simple, clear, confident. Now, I want to address a fear that many of you have. You are afraid that if you speak simply, people will treat you like a child. You worry that you will not be respected. This is a valid fear, but it is usually wrong. In fact, in the business world and the academic world, people are tired of confusing language. We live in a world of information overload. We are drowning in data. When someone comes along and speaks clearly, directly, and simply, it feels like fresh air. It feels like relief. Think about a doctor. If a doctor tells you you have a respiratory infection caused by a viral pathogen, you might feel confused and scared. You have to ask, what does that mean? But if the doctor says, you have a virus in your lungs, it is common, and you will get better in a week, you feel safe. You trust that doctor. You don't think the doctor is stupid. You think the doctor is helpful. You want to be that helpful person in your English conversations. You want to be the person who makes things easy to understand, not the person who makes things more difficult. To start doing this, you need to change your daily practice. Usually, students practice by memorizing lists of vocabulary. I want you to change that. I want you to practice paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is stating the same idea in different words. Here is a challenge for you to do tomorrow. Pick one object in your house. Let's say, a refrigerator. Now, imagine you are not allowed to say the word refrigerator. How do you describe it? You might say, the cold box where we keep food fresh, or the machine in the kitchen for milk and vegetables. Do this for abstract emotions, too. Take the feeling of nostalgia. That is a hard word. How do you describe it without the word? A sweet sadness when thinking about the past. Missing a time that is gone. When you practice this, you are building new highways in your brain. If the main highway, the word nostalgia, is blocked, your brain instantly takes the side road. Missing the past. You never stop speaking. You never freeze. This is the secret to continuous fluency. Let's go back to our friend Sarah from the book club. After that first success, she started to get bolder. She started to realize that she could talk about anything. One night, the group was talking about artificial intelligence. This is a scary topic with lots of technical words like algorithms, automation, and ethics. Sarah listened. She heard people arguing about technological unemployment. She wanted to join in. She took a breath and thought about the simple reality. She said, I am worried that computers will do our jobs better than us. If computers do all the work, what will people do? Will we be free, or will we be useless? Look at that last sentence. Will we be free, or will we be useless? That is a philosophical question. It touches on the deepest fears of humanity. And every single word in that sentence is in the top 500 most common words in English. She expressed a big idea using simple English. The group spent the next hour discussing her question. She drove the conversation. She was the leader of the discussion, not because she knew the most words, but because she asked the clearest question. You have this power too, but you have to let go of the ego that wants to sound like a textbook. You have to embrace the human connection. We connect through stories, through feelings, and through clear images. We do not connect through dictionaries. As we continue in this journey, we need to look at specific areas of life. We need to look at how to handle arguments, how to tell funny stories, and how to give advice. All of these require a different kind of simple English, but the foundation is always the same. Clarity is king. Confidence comes from knowing you can always explain yourself, no matter what words you forget. I want you to take a moment right now to reflect on a time you stayed quiet. Think of a specific moment in the past year. Maybe it was a meeting at work. Maybe it was a chat with a tourist. Maybe it was an online class. Recall that moment. What did you want to say? What was the big idea? Now, in the safety of your own mind, I want you to rewrite that moment. How could you have said it simply? If you wanted to say, "I disagree with the premise of your argument," could you have said, "I don't think your main point is true"? If you wanted to say, "The weather is incredibly erratic lately," could you have said, "The weather changes too much these days"? Visualize yourself saying these simple sentences. Visualize the other person nodding and understanding. Visualize the connection. This visualization is important because it trains your brain to value the message over the vocabulary. It lowers the stress. When stress goes down, fluency goes up. Stress is the enemy of language. When you are stressed, your brain shuts down. When you are relaxed, your brain opens up. Knowing that you can use simple words allows you to relax. It is a safety net. You are walking on a tightrope, but you know there is a net below you, so you are not afraid to fall. Simplicity is strength. Don't translate words, translate meaning. Use verbs, not nouns. And never, ever be afraid to describe a word if you can't remember it. You are already enough. Your English is already enough to share your soul with the world. You just need to trust the simple tools you have in your hands. This leads us directly to the world of business and negotiation, specifically the story of a man named David. This story is important because money and business are topics where we usually feel we must use the most difficult words. We think we need to sound like a lawyer to get paid like a professional. David thought this too. David worked in logistics. He managed trucks and shipping for a large company. He was a hard worker. He stayed late. He fixed problems. But he felt he was underpaid. He decided to ask his boss for a raise. The night before the meeting, David was very nervous. He sat at his kitchen table with a notebook. He wrote down scripts. He tried to translate his thoughts from his native language into formal English. He wrote things like, "My remuneration is not commensurate with my contributions," and "I have facilitated the optimization of the supply chain." He practiced these sentences in the mirror. Commensurate. Facilitated. Optimization. Every time he said them, he stumbled. He sounded like a robot that was running out of battery. He wasn't connecting with the words because they weren't his words. They were borrowed from a textbook. He went to bed feeling anxious. He knew that if he was nervous in the mirror, he would be terrified in the office. The next morning, he walked into his boss's office. His boss, Mr. Henderson, was a busy man. He was typing on his computer and didn't look up immediately. This made David more nervous. David sat down. He cleared his throat. He started to say the script he practiced. Mr. Henderson, regarding my remuneration, he stopped. His mind went blank. The word commensurate disappeared. He sat there in silence for 3 seconds. It felt like 3 hours. He took a deep breath. He remembered our rule. Clarity is king. He decided to throw away the script. He decided to just speak the truth using simple facts. He looked at Mr. Henderson and said, "I want to talk about my salary. I think I deserve more money." Mr. Henderson stopped typing. He looked at David. He was listening. David continued. He didn't use the word optimization. Instead, he used a powerful technique called the Rule of Three. He said, "In the last year, I did 3 things. First, I saved the company $50,000. Second, I trained 2 new managers. And third, I never missed a deadline." He stopped. He let those 3 short sentences hang in the air. They were heavy. They were undeniable. He didn't say, "I facilitated growth." He said, "I saved money." Mr. Henderson leaned back in his chair. He nodded. He said, "You are right. You did those things." The conversation continued, and it was easy. David didn't have to search for words because he was just describing reality. At the end of the meeting, David got a 10% raise. He walked out of the office feeling like a giant. Why did this work? It worked because short sentences are strong. When you use long, complex sentences with many clauses, you sound unsure. You sound like you are trying to hide something. When you use short, simple sentences, you sound honest. You sound like you have nothing to hide. Let's analyze the technique David used, the Rule of 3. The human brain loves the number 3. It is a pattern. Stop, look, and listen. Beginning, middle, and end. Blood, sweat, and tears. When you group your ideas into 3s, you sound organized. You sound like an expert. You don't need C2 vocabulary to do this. You just need to count. Imagine you are in an interview and they ask, "Why should we hire you?" Do not ramble. Do not speak for 5 minutes without stopping. Use the Rule of 3. You can say, "You should hire me for 3 reasons. I am honest, I learn fast, and I love this job." That is B1 English, but it sounds like a CEO speaking. It is rhythmic. It is memorable. I want you to try this right now. I want you to pause and think about your own job or your studies. If you had to describe your daily routine using the Rule of 3, what would you say? Maybe it is, "I wake up, I study hard, I help my family." Maybe it is, "I check emails, I write code, I solve problems." Feel the rhythm of that. It punches. It has impact. This is how you express big ideas. The big idea here is competence. You are showing you are competent by being concise. Now, let's move away from business and into something even more difficult: conflict and emotion. Expressing negative emotions in a second language is terrifying. We are afraid of being rude. We are afraid of starting a fight because we used the wrong word. So, often, we say nothing. We let people treat us badly because we don't have the words to stop them. Or, we explode. We get angry and shout because we can't explain the nuance of our feelings. But there is a middle way. It is the way of simple English assertiveness. Let me introduce you to Elena. Elena shared an apartment with a friend. Her friend was very messy. The friend left dishes in the sink and clothes on the floor. Elena was a clean person. She started to feel angry. She wanted to have a serious conversation about shared living standards and mutual respect. She wanted to say, "Your lack of hygiene is creating a hostile environment." But she knew this sounded too aggressive. She was afraid her friend would get defensive. So, Elena used a structure that I teach all my students. It is called the when you, I feel, please structure. This structure is magic. It uses only simple words, but it solves complex relationship problems. Here is how Elena used it. She sat her friend down. She didn't talk about hygiene or hostility. She said, "When you leave dishes in the sink, I feel frustrated. I feel like you don't care about our home. Please wash your dishes after you eat." Look at that. No big words. Frustrated is maybe the hardest word, and you can replace it with sad or angry if you need to. When you leave dishes, I feel sad. Please wash them. It is impossible to misunderstand this. It is direct, but it is not an attack. It focuses on facts and feelings. Her friend didn't fight back. Her friend said, "I am sorry. I didn't know you felt that way." They solved the problem in 2 minutes. If Elena had tried to use big words to sound adult, she might have said something confusing or arrogant. Simplicity builds bridges. Complexity builds walls. We can use this for positive emotions too. We often think that to be romantic or kind, we need poetry. We think we need to say, "My love for you is as deep as the ocean." That is nice, but it is a cliché. Simple, specific truth is more powerful. If you want to tell someone you appreciate them, don't look for a fancy adjective like extraordinary or magnificent. Just tell them what they did. Say, "You make me laugh when I am sad." Say, "I feel safe with you." Say, "Thank you for listening to me." These sentences go straight to the heart. They are B1 sentences with C2 emotional impact. I want to give you a practice prompt for this. Imagine a friend helped you move to a new house. It was hard work. You want to thank them. Don't just say, "Thank you for your assistance." That sounds like a robot. Use the simple, specific structure. "You worked so hard today. You carried the heavy boxes. I could not do this without you." Feel the difference? The second version carries real gratitude. The first version carries distance. This brings us to a very important concept: distance versus closeness. Formal, complex English creates distance. It puts a barrier between you and the listener. Sometimes, in a very formal legal setting, you want that distance, but in 95% of your life, in business, with friends, in travel, you want closeness. You want connection. Simple English invites people in. It says, "I am speaking to you, human to human." Now, let's talk about another situation where we get stuck. Explaining a mistake. We all make mistakes. Maybe you forgot to send an email. Maybe you broke something. When we make a mistake, our instinct is to make excuses using complicated grammar. We say, "The email was not sent due to an unforeseen technical error regarding the server." We use the passive voice, "was not sent," because we don't want to say, "I didn't send it." We think this makes us look innocent. It actually makes us look weak. Strong leaders use simple English to own their mistakes. Imagine you forgot the email. You simply say, "I made a mistake. I forgot to send the email. I am sending it now. I am sorry." This is powerful. It shows you are not afraid. It shows you are in control. The big idea here is accountability. You don't need the word accountability to show it. You just need the word I. I did it. I will fix it. Let's combine these ideas into a simulation. I want you to imagine you are in a team meeting. The project is behind schedule. Everyone is arguing. They are blaming external factors and market volatility. You want to be the voice of reason. You want to say that the team needs to focus. You don't need to say, We must synergize our efforts to mitigate the delay. No. You can use the rule of three and the I feel structure. You stand up. You say, "Please listen. I feel worried about this project. We are talking too much. We need to do three things: stop arguing, pick a leader, and start working." If you said that in a real meeting, everyone would stop. They would listen to you. You cut through the noise. You express the big idea of strategic realignment using words a child understands. This is the definition of fluency. Fluency is not the number of words you know. Fluency is how well you can use the words you have to change the world around you. I want to address a question I often get from students. They ask, "Alex, if I only use simple words, how will I ever improve? Will I get stuck at B1 forever?" This is a great question. The answer is no. You will not get stuck. Actually, mastering simple English is the fastest way to learn advanced English. Why? Because you build a strong structure. When you are confident with simple sentences, you can slowly add one advanced word at a time. You don't try to build a whole house of advanced words. You build a house of simple words, and then you add a beautiful, complex painting to the wall. For example, imagine you are comfortable saying, "I am very happy." You say it all the time. One day, you learn the word ecstatic. Now, you can say, "I am ecstatic." You just swapped one word. The sentence structure didn't change. You were safe. But if you try to build a complex sentence like, "My emotions are overwhelming me with joy," and you get the grammar wrong, you lose confidence. Master the simple frame first. Then decorate it with new vocabulary later. Let's try a technique called the definition method. This is for when you want to talk about a specific topic, like politics or science, but you don't know the terminology. In this method, instead of naming the thing, you define it. Let's say you are talking about democracy. Maybe you forget the word. How do you define it? A country where people choose the leaders. Now, let's use that in a sentence. Instead of saying, "Democracy is fragile," you say, "A country where people choose the leaders is not easy to keep safe." That is a profound thought. It actually makes people think more than the word democracy does. When we hear common words like democracy, our brains sometimes sleep. We think we know what it means. But when you hear a country where people choose the leaders, you see the image. You think about the people voting. The simple definition is more vivid. Let's try another one. Globalization. A huge, complex word. What is the definition? The world becoming one big market. Or people and money moving easily between countries. So, if you want to debate globalization, you can say, "I think it is good that people and money move easily between countries. It helps us understand each other." You are debating a PhD topic with B1 English. You are participating. You are not on the sidelines. We are going to do a listening exercise now to practice this definition method. I am going to give you a definition of a complex modern problem. I want you to listen and think about what the problem is. This is when you spend too much time looking at other people's lives on your phone. You see their perfect pictures. You see their vacations. You start to feel like your life is bad. You feel sad and jealous because you are comparing your real life to their fake life. What is this? We might call this social media anxiety or the comparison trap. But my description was clear, wasn't it? Comparing your real life to their fake life. That is a very strong B1 sentence. It captures the emotion perfectly. You could use that sentence in a conversation with a psychologist or a teenager, and both would understand you deeply. Now, I want to give you a tool for storytelling. We talked about David earlier. David's story was effective because it followed a clear line: problem, action, result. When you tell a story in English, do not jump around. Do not get lost in details. Stick to the timeline. First, this happened. Then, I did this. Finally, this was the result. These words, first, then, finally, are your best friends. They are signposts. They tell the listener where to go. Let's practice telling a big idea story. Let's say the big idea is resilience or never giving up. That is the abstract theme. The story is about learning to ride a bike. First, I bought a bike. I was excited. Then, I tried to ride it. I fell down. I hurt my knee. I wanted to stop. But I stood up. I tried again. Finally, I could ride. I learned that pain is part of learning. Look at the last sentence. I learned that pain is part of learning. That is wisdom. That is a quote you could put on a poster. And it is simple. If you said, I deduced that suffering is intrinsic to the educational process, you sound crazy. You sound like a machine. Pain is part of learning sounds like a human being. This brings us to the importance of universal truths. Universal truths are usually simple. Love is blind. Time is money. Health is wealth. The biggest ideas in human history are expressed in the smallest words. You have permission to speak like this. You have permission to be wise without being wordy. We have walked through the valleys of fear and climbed the mountains of confidence. We have learned that you do not need a dictionary to be a genius. You simply need to trust the words you already have. We have seen Marcus explain engineering with the language of a child. We have seen David get a raise using the rule of 3. We have seen Elena save a friendship by saying, I feel. Now, we are standing at the edge of the future. We are going to look at how to build dreams, how to connect with strangers, and how to find peace in your journey. I want to introduce you to Sophia. Sophia represents many of you. She had a dream. She wanted to open a special kind of bakery. She wanted to make healthy bread for people who had allergies. It was a beautiful idea. But to make this idea real, she needed money. She needed to speak to investors, people with suits and briefcases who usually speak the language of money. Sophia was terrified. She thought she needed to write a business plan full of words like return on investment, market penetration, demographic segmentation, and capital expenditure. Every time she tried to write her speech, she froze. She felt small. She felt like a little girl asking for a toy, not a businesswoman asking for an investment. Sophia came to me and showed me her speech. It was impossible to understand. It was full of big words that she used incorrectly. It sounded fake. I took the paper and put it away. I asked her, Sophia, tell me the truth. Why will this business work? Tell me like you are telling your grandmother. Sophia relaxed. She said, well, many people have allergies today. They cannot eat normal bread. They are sad because they miss bread. I make bread that tastes good and doesn't hurt them. If they eat my bread, they will be happy. If they are happy, they will buy more. And we will make money. I smiled. That, I said, is your pitch. She looked at me with wide eyes. But it is too simple, she said. They will think I am stupid. I told her the secret that every great businessman knows. Investors don't invest in words. They invest in logic. And simple logic is the best logic. Sophia went to the meeting. She stood in front of three serious men. She didn't talk about market penetration. She used the if-then structure. This is the most powerful structure for talking about the future. She said, "There is a problem. People are sick from normal food. If you give me this money, I will build a kitchen. If I build the kitchen, I can make 500 loaves of bread a day. If we sell them, we will make a profit in 6 months." The investors leaned forward. They understood the plan instantly. There was no confusion. There was no place for the idea to hide. It was naked and strong. They gave her the money. Sophia realized that her big idea, a revolutionary healthy bakery, was best served on a plate of simple English. This if-then structure is your key to the future. Many students struggle with complex grammar called conditionals. They worry about the first conditional, second conditional, and third conditional. They get stressed about if I were versus if I was. Forget the grammar names. Focus on the logic. If I do X, Y will happen. This allows you to negotiate, to plan, and to dream. Let's practice this together. Imagine you are planning a vacation with your friends, but you are worried about the rain. You don't need to say, "In the event of precipitation, we shall alter our trajectory." Just say, "If it rains, we will go to the museum." Simple, clear, decisive. Imagine you are at work and you need more time. "If you want this report to be good, I need 2 more days." You are setting a boundary using simple logic. You are showing that you understand the consequence. This commands respect. Now, let's go deeper. What about the unreal future? The dreams? Often we want to say, "If I had $1 million, I would buy a boat." This is the second conditional. It scares students. But look at the simple reality. You are just imagining. You can simplify this by using the phrase, "Imagine if." Imagine if I have $1 million. I buy a boat. In casual conversation, this is perfectly understood. You are painting a picture. You are inviting the other person to dream with you. Imagine we live in a big house. We have a garden. We are happy. You don't need perfect grammar to paint that picture. You just need the images. This brings us to a very deep part of communication, philosophy and hypothesis. How do we talk about the deep questions of life? What is the meaning of happiness? Why are we here? These topics feel like they belong in a university lecture. But the best philosophy is simple. Think about the ancient teachers. They spoke in parables, in simple stories. You can do this too. Let's say you want to discuss regret. You want to say that you regret not studying art when you were younger. The complex sentence is, "I harbor deep regret regarding my decision to abstain from artistic education." That is heavy. It is like a stone. Let's break it down. What is the reality? You didn't study art. How do you feel? Sad. So say that. I didn't study art. Now, I am sad about that. I wish I did it. This structure, I didn't, I wish I did, is accessible to everyone. It is honest. I didn't say goodbye to my friend. I wish I did. This hits the heart harder than, "I regret my lack of farewell." Simplicity allows emotion to travel faster. I want you to try this mental exercise. Think of one thing you want to change about the world. Maybe it is poverty. Maybe it is pollution. Maybe it is anger. Formulate a complex sentence in your head, like, "The eradication of poverty is essential for global stability." Now, destroy that sentence. Build a simple one. Poor people suffer. We must help them. If they have food, the world is safer. Feel the difference? The second one feels like a call to action. The first one feels like a textbook. When you speak simply, you are not just sharing information. You are asking people to care. This leads us to the most important goal of language: connection. Why do we learn English? Do we learn it to pass a test? Do we learn it to impress a teacher? No. We learn it to connect with other human beings. We learn it to bridge the gap between me and you. And connection does not require perfection. Connection requires attention. Being a clear speaker is only half the battle. You must also be a clear listener. In our simple English philosophy, listening is active. When someone is speaking complex English to you and you don't understand, what do? Do you nod and pretend? Do you smile and say, yes, yes, while panic rises in your chest? We have all done that. But that breaks the connection. That is a lie. The simple English approach to listening is to ask for clarity. It is brave. You look the person in the eye and say, I'm sorry. I don't understand. Please say it simply. This sentence, please say it simply, is a magic spell. It forces the other person to stop performing and start communicating. You are inviting them into your world of clarity. Usually, they will smile, relax, and explain it better. You are helping them too. And when you are listening, you can use simple phrases to show you are there. I see. That is interesting. Tell me more. Why? The word why is the most powerful tool in your box. It keeps the conversation going deeper without you needing to add new topics. A person says, I am going to quit my job. You ask, why? They say, because I am unhappy. You ask, why? They say, because my boss is not kind. You say, that is hard. In that short dialogue, you said almost nothing, but you supported your friend. You were a great conversationalist. You allowed them to explore their feelings. You didn't need to say, what were the motivating factors for your resignation? You just asked, why? I want to share a personal story with you. This is a story about the moment I truly understood the power of simple connection. Years ago, before I was a teacher, I traveled to a remote village in the mountains of Asia. I did not speak the language. I knew maybe 50 words. Hello, thank you, water, bathroom, delicious. That was it. I felt stupid. I was a grown man, but I had the vocabulary of a 2-year-old baby. One afternoon, I was walking down a dirt road. I saw an old woman sitting by the side of the road. She was crying. A heavy bag of rice had spilled on the ground. It was everywhere in the dust. She was too old to pick it up quickly, and she was distressed. I wanted to say, Ma'am, please do not worry. I will assist you in gathering your groceries, and I can carry them to your residence. But I couldn't. I had zero grammar for that. I walked over. I looked at her. I put my hand on my chest and said, I help. Just 2 words. Subject, verb. I help. She looked at me, surprised. I knelt down in the dust. I started scooping the rice back into the bag. She stopped crying. She started to help me. We worked together in silence for 10 minutes. When we finished, I stood up. I pointed to the bag, and then to my muscles. I said, I carry. She smiled a smile that looked like the sun coming out from behind clouds. She nodded. I carried that heavy bag to her small house. She invited me inside. She didn't speak English. I didn't speak her language. She poured me a cup of tea. We sat there. She pointed to a picture on the wall of a young man. She said a name. She looked sad. I understood it was her son, and maybe he was gone. I put my hand on my heart. I said, sad. She nodded. Sad. Then she pointed to me and smiled. She said, good. I said, Friend? We sat there for an hour, drinking tea, pointing, smiling, and using single words. Hot. Good. Family. Far. It was one of the deepest conversations of my life. We shared pain, we shared gratitude, and we shared company. I left that house feeling like I had made a true friend. If I had worried about my grammar, I would have walked past her. I would have been too afraid to approach. But because I accepted my simplicity, I was able to be human. You are not a textbook. You are a human being. Your value in a conversation does not come from your prepositional phrases. It comes from your eyes, your smile, your empathy, and your willingness to try. The words are just the vehicle. You are the driver. If you drive a simple bicycle, you can still visit beautiful places. You don't need a Ferrari to visit a friend. Simple English is your bicycle. It is reliable. It is easy to fix. And it will take you everywhere you need to go. So, how do we integrate this into your life starting today? I have a challenge for you. It is called the Simple Journal. Every night for the next week, I want you to write down 3 things that happened to you. But you must write them as if you are writing for a 6-year-old child. Instead of writing, "My supervisor reprimanded me for my tardiness," write, "My boss was angry. I was late. I felt bad." Instead of writing, "The traffic congestion was unbearable," write, "There were too many cars. I waited a long time." When you do this, you are training your brain to find the core. You are stripping away the fat and keeping the meat. After a week, you will notice something amazing. When you speak, you will stop pausing. You will stop searching for the perfect word, because you will realize the simple word is already there, waiting for you. You will feel lighter. The heavy backpack of complex English will drop from your shoulders. You will also notice that people understand you better. They will nod more. They will smile more. Because you are easy to listen to. You are not making their brains work hard. You are giving them a gift. Clarity is a gift. Simplicity is kindness. As we end this series, I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Picture yourself in the future. Picture yourself in a room full of people speaking English. They are laughing, talking, and sharing ideas. Picture yourself in the middle of the circle. You are speaking. You are not sweating. You are not shaking. You are speaking slowly, clearly, and simply. You are telling a story about your life. The people are listening. They are leaning in. They are laughing at your jokes. They are nodding at your wisdom. You feel calm. You feel powerful. You are not trying to be someone else. You are just being you, in English. Open your eyes. That future is not a fantasy. It is your reality waiting for you. You have the tools now. You know about the verb shift. You know the rule of 3. You know the if-then structure. You know the power of defining words you don't know. And most importantly, you know that you are enough. Do not let the fear of mistakes stop you. Mistakes are just signposts on the road. They tell you, you are learning. Every time you stumble, you are moving forward. Every time you use a simple word, instead of staying silent, you are winning. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Thank you for trusting me with your time and your attention. I am Alex, and this has been English in Fluency. I want to ask you one last thing. I want you to prove to yourself that you can do this. Go down to the comments section right now. I don't want you to just say, "Good video." I want you to write one big idea using simple English. Tell me a truth about life. Tell me a dream you have. Tell me something you learned, but keep it simple. Use the tools. Life is short. We must love. I want to travel. I want to see the ocean. Mistakes are good. They help me grow. I will read every single one of them. I can't wait to see your brilliance shining through your simple words. You are ready. Go out there and speak. Speak clearly. Speak confidently. And never forget, the biggest ideas fit in the smallest words. See you in the next video.